Oo.
Yeah.
Ano,
Oo.
just to keep everybody guessing kung baka nga maging vice president siya.
Hindi equilibrium yun.
Hindi, para hindi nag-aaway-away siguro yung ibang mga tao na gustong tumakbo. But anyway,
diba? It's more interesting.
Yung obvious na supporta niya, diba?
In the meantime, on the
Malalaman
COVID...
na lang natin yan sa December. Sa December.
Ang December.
Di ba ganun nga yung...
Substitution ulit.
That's how he did it.
Yung substitution ulit.
Diba?
Yung final
In the
Si
meantime...
Martin Dino, bantayan si Martin Dino, ha?
In the meantime, on the COVID front, we do have some good news, no? Sa growth rate ng natin, negative 9%, which is 9% but 10%. But it's a significant decline, you know, after so many, sanay na tayo, no? And we're still calling it the growth rate, but it's a negative 9, and the DOH, I don't know who classifies that, na ano na tayo, yung level ng safety natin.
DOH siya nagsabi niyan eh. Dr. Altia yan eh. So we don't know kung sino talaga yung nagka-classify ng low risk. Baka nga naman talaga sila. Anyway.
Kasi the classification is for the entire Philippines. It refers to the entire Philippines. So I thought for a moment that it must be, I don't know, it's not a global assessment of our situation.
Mahirap yata mag-assess niya kasi pati yung Israel, the most fully vaccinated country. Ayun, they're grappling with the variant.
Mongolia din, di ba? Halos na buong Mongolia vaccinated.
Tapos if you look around Southeast Asia, yung mga akala mong nakaligtas na, well, Vietnam is still doing very good. I mean, from the very start, from the get-go, Vietnam was doing good. But if you look at the other in the Mekong sub-region, before, Myanmar was okay, Cambodia was okay, now their numbers are up. And everything is being driven by the Delta variant.
Kaya, we cannot be complete. Pinalik ng Israel yung kanilang mass query.
Oo nga eh. Yeah. So, ang hirap talaga rin i-predict, ano?
In fact, yun din ang pinag-uusapan sa sa California. If I'm not mistaken, kanina yung binalita sa Big Story, pati ang California. Anyway, in the meantime, while we're still waiting for our guest, I think we have some technical issues to resolve. We need to take a short break. When we come back, we speak with Senator Richard Gordon. Please don't go away. Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. I'm Robbie Alampay with Lucy Cruz Valdez, Ami Pamituan, and Ed Dingao. And joining us tonight, Senator and also Philippine Red Cross Chairman Richard Gordon. Good evening, Senator, Chairman Gordon.
Good evening, Senator.
Good evening, sir.
Is everybody Ed and of course and Philippine Star and others.
Sir, hindi ko alam kung saan ako mag-uumpisa, kung kay Senator Gordon o kay Chairman Gordon. Umpisa natin sa Chairman, no? Because we started off, we did lead off on COVID, about Red Cross in particular and vaccination efforts. How do you see the vaccination efforts going so far from where you could appreciate it, where you're looking at it from the Red Cross?
I'm looking at it from the standpoint Red Cross, medyo nababagalan ako because we have 1,000 vaccinators ready. Unfortunately, we're not getting the juice. We're not getting the vaccines. No? Apparently, binibigyan nila sa local government. And that's good because local government should be at the forefront. But I don't know how efficient it is because right now we've only vaccinated about 2,570,000. At that rate, we can finish perhaps by 2023. Hindi natin matatapos yung 2022 deadline nila. Because we are administering an average of 234,993. It will take an additional 1.51 years to December 22 to fully vaccinate 70 million Filipinos. So that means we should be vaccinating about 500 to 700,000 a day.
Yes, I think that's the target. And at last count, I think they were hitting 150 a day, no? So you think that that's still a far cry?
That's correct. Mabagal yun. In reality, I think what we need to know is that there is a vaccine drag, a vaccine scare going on. A lot of people don't want to get themselves vaccinated if you were to believe the surveys, no? But the numbers show. If we do have low rates of negatives or positives rather, it means that not too many people are having themselves vaccinated, so you don't know what is out there. So the constant testing, the constant tracing, the constant treating must be undertaken. We have to separate the goat from the sheep, literally. You know, those who have been tested positive should immediately be separated, and that's why we went into isolation centers. And I think that the local governments have done a pretty good job. Ang kailangan talaga is we have to bring the vaccines on the line.
Pero sir, it does...
Yeah, akala ko you were procuring. The Red Cross will be procuring its own vaccine.
No. We're not allowed.
Mobile vaccination bus, di ba?
No,
Akala ko ninyo yung vaccines.
we're not allowed. We only bought Moderna because at that time there were, I felt there was a lot of food dragging. We were slow to come out of the starting gate. Mabagal tayo. So sabi ko, kung may bebenta, bilhin na natin para at least makabawas tayo sa magkakasakit. But that came from the government also. The government was the one working it out with Ricky Razon's ICTSI. Nakapila kami lahat doon. Right now, we have not even gotten a single drop of vaccine from Moderna. Not yet.
So you cannot course it through the Red Cross, International Red Cross Network pala?
No, because WHO, all the protocols say you have to work with the governments. Now, we could do it if the government allows it, and if who allows it, we should be able to buy because all Red Cross societies are auxiliaries of governments. So they're not government, but they're auxiliaries. They're designed to help during disasters and during pandemics, as we have done in 1917. Marami namatay na American Red Cross, mga Red Cross nurses all over the world, and the Red Cross did a fantastic job there. But, you know, I think that the government should be made aware of that. They should read the book on 1917.
Sir, I'd like to go back to yung vaccination rates kasi it does seem like we're in quite a conundrum kasi while we do acknowledge na the vaccination could be and should be sped up, but at the same time, mukhang nagkakaroon ng errors along the way. I'm sure you've seen at least two of the video clips showing na nasundot nga pero hindi naman napisil yung bakuna at hindi na ipasok.
That can be charged to fatigue.
How do we...
That can be charged to fatigue. I would not give it so much shrift because pagod na yung mga tao eh. dapat talaga they should do it in relays. That's why you need more vaccinators. I advocate, for an example, na lahat ng mga, I thought they were going to, remember I said once upon a time that we should test all the nurses already sa board exams. Yung pala, pinospone na naman. From July, naging September na naman. So rather than be able to use all tens of siguro mga 10,000 to 15,000 nurses, and this is just a guess, for vaccination, wala tayong magva-vaccinate. So kulang yan. And at the same time, I am advocating also that those in college at least should be trained to vaccinate. It's not rocket science, and it will be good for the youth to be able to help vaccinate, or at least go engage in screening, making sure that everything is in order. Those are menial things that can be done. And I think the more people cooperate with us, the more we'll be able to do it. In what possible purpose could there be na nag-mintis yung vaccination kundi pagod lamang? At yun lang, yung pagod lamang, hindi na-vaccinate, kundi nakita yun, hindi lalabas yung tao, hindi pala siya na-vaccinate.
So what is the situation? Because now they're saying, for example, that it looks like we're really going to have a very happy Christmas. By that time, medyo, normal na. And then they're talking about herd containment that might be achieved by September. So when we get reports like this from you, we don't know how to feel about it. At the same time, we're araw-araw binabalita namin na may dumating na ganitong ilang milyon from Sinovac, a couple of 100,000 from Moderna. What do you make of all of this? Where are we really? I mean, so there's still a specter that 2023 pa ito?
That is hand-holding. If you look at the dose who have taken a second dose, ang first dose ay 6.84% lang ang nabigyan. So yung second dose hindi pa nabibigay. And then dumarating ng mga vaccines ngayon, although marami, that's not even enough because it's not even distributed as fast as it should be. And there are less vaccinators. And therefore, if you bring this all out and everybody comes all hands on deck, then perhaps we might be able to improve the situation a little bit more. But,
so it's a question of vaccinators? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think you cannot have people vaccinating so many people in a day. I think there should be a first quarter vaccinator, and then a second quarter vaccinator, and then balik yung first quarter sa third quarter. Ganun dapat in a day, in a day. Para hindi nagkakamali. We need to administer, like I said earlier, 766,166 doses daily. Now that's an awful lot, or 3 times our current rate. So kung wala ka nun, hindi tayo abot sa Christmas. It will be a bleak Christmas. And meron pang delikado because right now, kung hindi tayo nakakapag-vaccinate, we are more, delikado sa variants. Yes. And the variants are getting mightier. And if you're vaccinated, at least you have a line of defense. But if you're not vaccinated, you're a patsy. You get hit very fast.
Okay. Chairman, I hope you don't mind. Interviewing ko rin si Senator Gordon. We have a question for the Senator. Shift tayo ng konti because for the past weeks, ang pinag-usapan lang namin kung hindi COVID, 2022 eh. Ano po ba ang plano? I mean, are you throwing your hat into the ring and should we set aside another time to interview you completely on your plans for 2022?
Well, everybody has a plan, bata pa ako, gusto ko na mag-presidente, sa totoo lang. Kaya naman nag-practice tayo eh. I'm not
Senator.
There's no such thing as false humility here. Mga ganon, yun ang peke. If you can do it, then apply for it. If you cannot do it, shut up. If you have nothing but popularity or a record of money, get away from us because it's important. Remember when I was campaigning in 2010, I said, you cannot inherit the presidency. You cannot buy the presidency. You have to act your way to the presidency. Ang kalaban ng Pilipino, hindi yung mga kandidato eh. Ang kalaban ng Pilipino ay yung ating mindset na hanggang ngayon nakakulong pa, walang laban yan. Walang pera yan eh. Walang laban yan. Hindi popular yan eh. There is no mental analysis that is going on to say, ano ba kailangan talaga natin ngayon? Sino ba may track record? Sino ba lumalaban sa COVID? Sino ba ang kukuha ng trabaho pagkatapos nito? Sino ba nakakuha ng mga investments? Sino ba ang kaya magpatakbo, magpasunod? Wala nang tatanong yan. Ang tinatanong, ito, malakas ito. Bakit? Alam niyo ba kung sino mananalo? I could say yes, and I'm not even sure I'm going to win. I'm not even sure I'm going to lose. You can have 12 candidates and only one is going to be elected. I really get of my rocker when I see all these kinds of talk na walang analysis o malakas sa survey. Bakit? Huwag lang tayo mag-eleksyon, magpa-survey na lang tayo tapos na eleksyon. I think it's really ridiculous that we are out of focus. For example, nag-aaway si President Duterte ngayon at saka si Senator Pacquiao. Ba't natin pag-uusapan yan? Problema nyo yan. Pag-usapan natin, ano ba ang gagawin mo, Mr. Duterte, para makabilis tayo sa bakuna? Ikaw, Senator Pacquiao, gusto mo tumakbo, pero ano ba ang ginagawa mo para mabakunahan ng tao? Ano ginagawa mo para ma-assuage o mabawasan yung nagugutom? Wala naman mga ginagawa. Hindi man na-address yan eh. Maraming taong nagugutom ngayon, maraming taong walang trabaho, and we're creating a serious sense of dependency by pinapaasa yung tao. Tapos hindi naman ginagastos yung tao. Are you gonna ask me that question? 56 billion? Hindi ginastos? Tapos naghahanap tayo ng pera, nangungutang tayo? Ano ba ang sagot doon? 56 billion hindi nyo ginastos para magamit sa tao na nahihirapan, na nagugutom? Excuse me. Yan ba yung offer ng nating lahat dito? I'm also in media to a certain extent. I have a program every Sunday. I've been in Channel 5 before. I would ask those questions. But nobody seems to be asking those questions loud enough. And worse, nung namatay na si Pinoy, mayroon pa isang loko dyan na pinapakita ang baba-baba ng kultura at ng turo ng kanyang mga bulang, nagsisiya. Tapos yung iba naman, nagkakandara pa sabihin, napakagaling ni Pinoy, pero nung nabubuhay si Pinoy, nasaan sila? Nung talagang nagagalit sila kay Duterte, bakit hindi nila sinasabi, ito ang record ni Pinoy, so that we can have a debate on that issue. That is not the debate today. The debate today, who is going to be the next president, who has the track record, who has the integrity, who can make sure that what he says he will do. Kundi, puro pangako tayo. You've had 5 or 6 presidents who are bar top notchers, right? Yeah, you got me going. Ano nangyari? Wala. Lahat na ng pinangako, para sa mahirap. Mahirap pa rin ang tao. Di ba? Doon tayo sa matuwid na daan. And dami pa rin corrupt. Ako nga, natatawa ako eh. Napakulong na namin yung 2 immigration commissioner. At ito lang ang blue ribbon na maraming napakulong. Ito, convicted pa ngayon, life imprisonment. And natuwa naman ako, sabi ko, see, corruption can be beaten. If we have the record, if we can get witnesses, if we can get evidence, you can fight it. Pero, ganun pa rin naman. Yung mga pulis, ganyan pa rin.
Kanino sinisisi yan? I mean, that's how the voters also behave. Everybody has done their part as far as voter education, but any profession or any industry can also only do so much. I mean, how do you teach voters to vote according to what candidates can really deliver on? Well, every election we do that, we vote or educate. I mean, sawang-sawa na nga rin kami dun sa phrase na yun eh. Pero, and here you are, you're complaining about how the voters vote. Who will educate the voters?
I'm not complaining. I'm stating a fact, Lucy. That is a fact. That is not a complaint. And we should be doing this all year round. All year round. We talk about accountability. Public office is a public trust. Pero, nakikita naman yun, nakakabalik yung mga loko eh. Nakakabalik yung nagdakaw, nakakabalik yung mga pinatay, nakakatakos yung mga Peter Lim. Nakikita natin. And yet, tahimik lang tayo, tameme. Pinapatay na yung mga bata, okay ba rin tayo? We have, I'm fighting extrajudicial killings by people who are riding in tandem in motorcycles. Nobody seems to pay attention. There is no political aspect to that. Ang political aspect, ang nagpapapatay, si Duterte, mayroon siyang ganito. But, nobody comes out and says, saan ang ebidensya nyo? And that's where we fail our people. All of us fail our people that way. If we have the evidence come out, if we have the witness come out, and all of us, including media, the religious sector, everybody, talagang full court press yan. Because in Singapore, a small city-state, nakakahiya tayo, we're beaten blind by Singapore. They have more money, they have more ships, they have more aircraft, they have more business than we have. And our educational sector has really, really been deprived. Nakita niyo, napakababa ng mga results sa examination and nobody is perturbed. I'm sure we'll perturb, ay sabihin natin, talagang ganyan eh. Wala
Yeah,
tayong magagawa.
but Senator, let me take you on that, no? Kasi
Take me
in
up on
fairness, on yung inano nyo, for example, EJ case, it's not true. Civil society has been speaking about it for the longest time. The academic community have come out with their own investigations. The church has spoken out it, and God knows media has been covering it. We've had documentaries, we've had features, people have been covering it. All members of media have covered EJ case. The problem is that pagdating sa mga politician, if you look at how people in power have been talking about it, over the past years, they've been taken a quote-unquote pragmatic stance. Pagbigyan natin ang presidente, bigyan natin ng chance kung magato. And that's why it gets to the point now that when Manny Pacquiao, for example, asked about, not about EJ case, but asked about corruption and the accountability that people have been asking for the longest time, kaya siyang sumbatan na, bakit ngayon tumatakbo kang presidente? Tatanungin mo kami ng accounting for COVID. Samantalang nung nag-Senate hearing, wala ka naman, di ka naman, absent ka naman. It's the same story. The point is, I think, same point as Lucci, it's not that media and civil society and citizens and local communities have not been asking about this. It's the politicians who did not confront President Duterte.
We're not pointing each other at one another. You know, all of us are Filipinos. Ang sinasabi ko lang, start fixing the problem instead of fixing the blame. We keep talking about it, but nobody comes out. If we come out with a witness, then we should protect that witness. It's a process. We're a democracy.
Yes, sir, pero, sir, that's a law enforcement and investigation aspect, and that falls on government. And that is what exactly the civil society groups and the media have been asking from government.
There are measurable ways to do that. If the law enforcement is not doing it, every time somebody gets killed, I stand up in Congress and say, ano bang ginagawa nyo dyan? I write letters to the chief of PNP. And mercifully enough, minsan uma-action, kung minsan hindi. And you know, binaril lang nga yung tao. But how can we accept the fact na itong si Nuesca, hanggang ngayon, hindi pa dumatakbo yung kaso? Ha? Hindi ko maintindihan yan. Yung isa sasabihin nila, administrative case ang pinag-uusapan. Criminal case yan eh. May videotape ka na. May mga testigo na. Bakit ang bagal ng justice? Yun ang dapat natin sumbatan. Fix the problem. Oy, Mr. Prosecution, Mr. Department of Justice, oy, mga judges, lumabas naman kayo because andyan na yan eh. Ano pa ba ang kailangan nyo? Pinapakita ka agad na nakukulong yan ka agad at tinapon na yung susi, sigurado, babawas yan. Lalo nga dumadami.
Senator, we're presuming yan yung mga priorities niya kung tatakbo kayo. If you're going to run, you will need a running mate. Nakakuha na ba kayo? Kasi we had a...
Hindi pa naman ako tumatakbo, darling eh. Hindi pa ako tumatakbo.
May report...
Tumatanong kasi sa akin eh. Ready ka na ba? Meron ka na ba running mate? Siyempre, maghahanap po na ako ng running mate. Hindi mo na kung tatakbo mag-isa. No, kung don't get there.
You are initiating talks na for a running mate?
No. I'm not even thinking. I'm thinking about the attributes of a running mate. Like last time I ran. Sabi ko, pareho kami ni Bayani Fernando. Pakinggan naman ninyo ako. Si Bayani Fernando had a good record in Marikina. You know, it takes about 20 to 25 to 30 years to make for a country to take off. Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore took about 25, 30 years. Ganun rin sa Korea. Ganun rin sa Japan after the major restoration. Dito, tatakbo ka na 6 years, tapos ka na. So, dapat yung papalit sa'yo, there will be continuity. That's why it's so hard to make a decision. Tatakbo ka, ginawa mo na lahat ang gusto mong gawin, ang mabuti, papalitan ka kaagad ng iba, sugat-sugat ka. Look at what happened in Subic. Sasabihin mo, okay, 6 years ako dyan, tinanggal ako. Di ko naman sinasabi ako pinakamagaling na nila lang dyan. Nasira yung momentum. Nawala na yung FedEx, nawala na yung Coastal, lumipat na sa ibang bansa, at ang nangyari, bumagal. So, ibig sabihin, continuity. Change, commitment, continuity. And you need leaders that are courageous, that have leadership that is courageous and compassionate. So if you're asking me, what are my priorities? Tanggalin mo muna ang COVID. At sabay dyan, maghanap ka na ng negosyo. I have all these programs already. Na-approve na nga yung isa. Na-approve na ng lower house at saka upper house. Pagkatapos, pinavito. My gosh, that would have created so much in Central Luzon. Ilang beses na ako na sumusubsub sa pader dyan. We got Lee Ka-shing. we had FedEx and we had Lee Ka-shing. With FedEx, you made Subic a transshipment port. Then we got Lee Ka-shing, the biggest port operator at that time. And he was going to go to Subic because Hong Kong was going to be vacated by the Chinese, by the British. Ano nangyari? They won, pagkatapos nanalo sa bidding, at pagkatapos nanalo sa bidding, ano nangyari? Pinilit yung isang bidder natin. Anong gagawin ko? Wala naman tumulog sa akin. Pagkatapos ngayon, eto na naman tayo. Pag maglalagay kayo ng presidente, tapos papalitan nyo. Tapos nagdadaldal tayo na walang continuity. Wala nga na-umpisan eh. Anong i-continue? Really? Galing sa puso ko yung sinasabi ko. You know that I'm right. You know that there's people who will always say, tanggalin mo yan, palitan mo ng bata mo, it's the spoil system all over again. You know that they're going to collect, tayo naman. And yet, okay, we cannot be righteous, we cannot be holy. You know that people, even the good ones, suffer. You could bring somebody in the Department in Public Works, I will not mention his name, natatakot baka mademanda. So, is that leadership? You get a good guy there, he cannot make a decision, natatakot siya mademanda. These are just some of the things. We know what we do not want, but we have to define ano ba kailangan natin ngayon sa 2022. I'm not even talking about that. You're the one asking. So if you're going to ask, ano ba kailangan? Paano tayo lalabas sa COVID? At paglabas natin sa COVID, paano tayo magkukompete with the rest of the world? Because everybody is going to try and get investments to their own country. And if we're not ready now, and I'm blowing the whistle, we are not ready. We don't even have factory buildings where they can go. We have a decongested city, Manila, that's bursting from the seams, and you have Central Luzon, which is vacant, a lot of land, and they have all the infrastructure, Subic, Clark, Manila, and a new airport with San Miguel, 4 na airports, 3 seaports, NLEX, TIPLEX, lahat na nandyan. Meron pang grain ngayon, pero lahat tayo nakukuha investments because many of the lands there are not prepared. Ang suggestion ko dyan, lagyan nyo na katulad ng Calabarzon ng mga grids kung saan pupunta yung negosyo at sabihin nyo na. You say we have the education there, come over and we'll be ready. And you can do that in Bacolod where they have plenty of land. You can do that in Cebu. You can do that in Mindanao. But nobody is really watching the store. I always ask this when there is a meeting or there's a budget hearing o Department of Trade. Ang dami-dami yung nakalagay doon sa mga trade secretaries nyo, doon sa mga trade attaches nyo. Ilan na naipasok nyo negosyo? Wala naman silang masabi. Puro mga...
Sir, tumakbo na lang kayo.
Ha?
Mabuti pa, tumakbo na kayo. Para masabi nyo lahat yan.
Kakapanya ka ba?
Go!
Mag-contribute ka ba sa akin?
Paano tayo lalabas ng COVID? Sabi mo, how are we going to get out of COVID?
Sino mo pinakamarami na test ngayon? Ha?
San Juan, malapit
Very
na.
nice. Thank you very much.
Ang San Juan daw, 86.6% na.
Ito ang testing ng Red Cross 3.3 million. Ang test ng sumunod 831 million. Yung government natin 534,000. I'm sorry. 837,000. Ang Red Cross nasa 3.3 million. May ginagawa kami. Ngayon, meron pa kaming bus, papasok. Ang problema, meron kaming baril, walang bala. Ay ibigay yung vaccine. Kung bigyan kami ng vaccine, we will help. We will help. We're even giving food. We're even going all out. We're in Mindanao right now in Marawi, distributing food. For the next year, we'll be distributing to the Marawi victims there. We have built houses from the earthquake last 2 years ago. We're now in Taal. In Taal, we have a food truck ready to go. We have trucks ready to evacuate. But wala pa, hindi pa naman kailangan evacuation. Ang kailangan, may vision. Kailangan, meron ka prediction. May plan ka. You're prepared. And you practice it so that when it happens, you're ahead of the curve.
Yung vaccine, hindi ba kayo kasabay ng private sector procurement?
Kasama kami, pero hindi kami binigyan. Hindi pa dumarating sa amin yung Moderna.
Pero maliit pa lang yung sa private sector eh. So pagdating ng bulk, kasama kayo?
Kasama na kami, dapat dumating na dito, pero nabigyan na sa local government, wala pa yung sa Red Cross. Sabi ko nga kanina, umaangal ako, pero sabi ko sa ICTSI, yung grupo dyan, government naman kami, para kaming government, semi-government kami. We're an international humanitarian organization. Bakit bibigyan sa local government lahat? Kung bigay kayo sa amin, sayang naman yung 1,000 vaccinators waiting on the wings to come out. We have 102 chapters. We can start vaccinating in each of the chapters. We're even going to bring buses to we have 2 buses in Cebu. We have 3 buses in Metro Manila. And they can all go into the barangays. And at the same time, pagpasok yan, we should be able to give food. We have mobile vaccine clinics right now in Metro Manila, Marikina, Mandaluyong, Navotas, Lapu-Lapu City, Mandaue, ready na yung mga buses there. We were vaccinating in Letran. Wala nang bala. Wala na akong vaccine dito. Oh, punta sa port area, natira sa amin, sa PLMC, dito sa likod ng Red Cross, Bakuna Center sa Pasay, port area. Everybody is trying to do vaccination. The local government is doing their share. Pero kung kulang ang vaccine, tapos ang boxing. So really, it is really important to bring those vaccines in.
Okay. Mukhang marami pa po tayong pag-uusapan. In the meantime, fortunately, we've run out of time for this segment. Senator Richard Gordon, Chairman of the Philippine Red Cross, maraming salamat po.
What are we
Thank
done?
you, sir.
Kailangan po.
Thank you, sir.
Nag-aantay pa po
Yeah.
si Yusek Vergere. Kakausapin pa po natin si Yusek Vergere.
Okay.
But obviously po, we will have you back. As
Lagi
you
namang
know.
bitin pag kayong guest eh.
Na po.
Ha?
Laging bitin eh. Sa dami ng sinasabi nyo.
Okay. We'll have you back, sir. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And let's bring in for the final stage of our conversation, Department of Health Spokesperson Maria Rosario Vergere. Yusek Vergere, welcome po to the Chiefs.
Good evening, Yusek.
Yusek.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yusek, ano ba yung term natin for the Philippines today? What's the news? Low risk, yung classification. Just something to clarify. Who gives that classification? Saan po nang galing yung statement na yun? Is that us telling ourselves na low risk na tayo? Or did that come from an international global accreditation agency? Nakamute po yata kayo.
Nakamute. Nakamute pa rin.
Wala yatang audio, may technical.
Wala yung video. Ay, audio.
Ayan po, narinig
Ayan
ko.
pa,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, if you look at the metrics that we use, pag tinignan ho natin, nationally, low risk. Kaya po ang ginagawa natin, we need to disaggregate it according to areas when we do the risk classification. Because yun pong mga areas sa makakakita tayo ng iba't ibang pagtaas ng mga classifications na yan. But when you look at the national, talagang low risk po tayo. But we are not bragging about this because we know the situation is very fragile.
But in numbers, what was the threshold for that? What is the definition for low risk?
When you say it's low risk, it's comprised of different metrics. No? So we look at the average daily attack rate, we look at the 2-week growth rate, we also look at the healthcare utilization rate. So meron ho tayong mga pamantayan or thresholds for that we identify. No? So nako-compute po lahat yan and then we can say it's low, it's moderate, or it's high risk.
Ma'am, paano kung anong period nitong nakaraang karanasan natin with COVID ang maihahalin tulad nyo sa sitwasyon ngayon na tinatawag nating low risk? Halimbawa, was this the period last December going into January when we thought that everything was under control? Ganun ba yun? Para lang may sense kami ng ano bang low risk?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, hindi nga ho tayo natin pinag-uusapan dapat yan because people might get complacent. No? I don't know where that came from. Pero yung sitwasyon po natin noong December and January, malayo pa po tayo doon. Noong December and January, nationally, we were just averaging around 2,000 cases per day. Ang average po natin ngayon ng mga kaso ay nasa 5,000 plus per day pa rin nationally. So hindi pa ho natin masasabi na nandun tayo sa pre-surge before the April surge, yung level po natin. So I cannot compare from those months at saka ngayon po. So again, let me just remind the public, please, yung risk classification po na yan ay depende sa pag-i-interpret natin at kailangan po nating tignan maigi ang bawat lugar.
Yung reminder po na yan also given to the economic planners kasi when they see an assessment like that, gusto nila magluwag further. On the other hand, if we look at countries that are leading in the vaccination like Israel, we're seeing a resurgence of cases now. Di ba? Yan din ba? Is there that kind of conversation?
Yes, ma'am. In the IATF naman, the economic sectors are there and they always listen naman sa health side. And they understand our risk classification because we had been doing this for more than a year already. Now in Israel, kapag tinignan ho natin yung kanilang mga kaso ngayon, it is mostly for those who are unvaccinated. So kaya nga po yung talagang aim ng ating gobyerno ngayon, mabakunahan ng mas madami.
Ma'am, ano pong reaction nyo dun sa sinasabi ni Senator Gordon na dapat daw ang Philippine Red Cross tinatrato na parang part of government, makakatulong sila sa vaccination effort. They have, ilan ba yun? 1,000 vaccinators on the ready. Bakit nga ba hindi po sila sinasama sa logistics ng vaccine rollout?
Ma'am, actually, they're part of whatever we have done since the start. And as what Senator Gordon has mentioned a while ago, yung sa mga laboratories pa lang, they have the big laboratories here in the country. And that's a great help for the government and the citizens. Ito pong sa pagbabakuna kasi, wala pa ho talaga yung ganong kadaming doses. So, yun po mga local governments naman natin, binigyan po natin sila ng authority and the freedom. If kailangan nila ng tulong and Philippine Red Cross is there, they can always get that help from the Philippine Red Cross if they are offered with this help. So ito naman pong sinasabi na meron siya yung si Senator Gordon, that Philippine Red Cross has these buses at saka yung 1,000 vaccinators. Maaari naman po, no? Kasi lagi naman natin silang katulong. I think sila Secretary Galvez naman, meron silang regular coordination with the Philippine Red Cross.
Kasi nga
Let me shift gears lang po a bit. Well, we do know that you've talked about yung nag-viral na video ng vaccination na hindi po tama yung pagkakagawa. And we do understand the DOH's point na it's probably a one-off or maybe two-offs kasi we've seen at least two video clips of that. Now, ang sabi po ni Secretary Duque, there will be immediate improvements in the protocol. I'd like to ask you lang po exactly what improvements have been made already in the protocol. And how much control does DOH have over these protocols given that yung mga LGUs yung nag-implement eh? Can you tell the LGUs that this is the way it should be done and it will be done?
Yes, sir. No? So the protocols comes from the Department of Health and we issue these guidelines, we issue the different processes na kailangan pinapatupad po nila. Actually, our vaccinators and our local governments have been doing vaccinations for decades already. So yun pong talagang bihasa na sila, kumbaga. Ito pong tatlong nangyari out of 10 million plus that we have vaccinated, kailangan lang po nating tignan kung ano ba yung mga naging factors why this happened. And we're doing a thorough investigation on that matter, not to penalize, not to sanction, but to improve the processes of government.
Yes, ma'am. We understand that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Pag tinignan ho natin, pag nagpalabas ho kami ng protocols, of course, the local governments enforces o sila po yung nagpapatupad. So kailangan lang ho natin talagang i-monitor maigi at nakapagbigay na ho tayo agad-agad ng mga refresher courses sa ating vaccinators. The day after lumabas po yung mga videos na yon, we've called on, meron tayong naging shifting sa kanilang refresher courses. Then secondly, nagbigay po tayo ng advisory sa ating vaccination sites na kailangan meron tayong parang overseer or supervisor who will be monitoring the different stations in the vaccination site para lang makita ng maayos kung natatama po ang mga proseso. Pangatlo, we have advised them na kailangan yung maximum na 8 hours hanggang dun lang tayo. Let us have some form of rotation for our healthcare workers para hindi naman sila exhausted. We minimize errors. And of course, the last would be our reverse logistics that at the end of the day, you do your inventories. Tignan natin. Isang hiringgilya, isang tao sa listahan mo, pati yung mga vials para nakikita ho natin kung may nami-miss out tayo.
Yes, ma'am. Let me just bring up one particular protocol instituted, I think, by San Juan. Although I don't know how consistent they have been. We found out yesterday na yung San Juan has been doing it this way. Before they inject, the nurse shows the syringe to the vaccinee to show na may laman siya. Then injection, and then the nurse again shows the syringe na wala nang laman sa vaccinee. Parang may before and after lang ba?
Yes po. Well, if the local governments would like to adopt that, alam niyo po, pag nagpalabas kami ng protocol, general yan. And then, alam naman po natin ang bawat local governments, they will have their own strategies whichever will be workable for them. So kung yan po sa tingin nila ay makakapag-increase ng kumpiyansa ng ating mga kababayan, wala naman hong problema dyan.
Speaking of local governments, kumusta na po yung compliance ng Cebu with your facility quarantine protocols? Kasi inulit na naman ng Malacanang kanina na all LGUs must comply with
Yes.
the one set by IATF.
Yes, ma'am. So that is our encouragement. No? Ayan po ang aming gustong posisyonan na kailangan lahat ng local governments, especially those with ports, uniform po ang pagpapatupad natin ng border control because we are trying to prevent the entry of variants in the country. So nung nakipag-meeting po sila Secretary Duque at saka ang iba pa nating officials noong Tuesday sa Cebu, nag-present naman po ang ating mga probinsya ng Cebu, yung kanilang mga officials, kung ano naman po yung mga best practices nila. At ito naman po ay atin nire-recognize, nakita naman natin na maganda naman. Kaya lang, nire-iterate pa rin po natin na kailangan sumunod sila dun sa protocols ng IATF. So yan pa rin po ang ating posisyon at hindi naman po tayo bibigay dyan. Atin pong hinihikayat ang mga officials sa Cebu na sana po ito po ay maipapatupad na. Pero existing po, they're doing it because they said yes to the President.
That settles it for the local level. But speaking of border control, as you know, as we speak more and more about the Delta variant, tumataas din po, and it keeps recurring, the discussion about travel bans from other countries. We've already instituted that for certain countries. But will we be expanding that? Will we be considering an expanded travel ban? Yeah.
Well, it was discussed in IATF last Monday, no? And according to our experts and also us from DOH, na pati po yung mga ibang officials ng IATF, we cannot isolate the Philippines from the rest of the world. Kasi ngayon po, ang meron ng Delta variant na detected, 95 countries na po siya. So ang dami na ho, no? So kung lahat yan isasama natin, ay talagang ma-isolate na ho tayo. So what we said was, we retain the existing na mga countries na meron tayong restrictions or ban. And then for the rest of the countries, ang ating gagawin, we need to very strictly implement itong border control. Kaya ganun na lang po talaga ang pakikiusap natin sa bawat local government na ipatupad ng maayos and uniformly itong border controls natin.
What about for those who are already vaccinated? Are we going to be as strict with them? As far as border controls, no, and quarantines when they come in. I understand that you're beginning to loosen up on vaccinated visitors or tourists or OFWs coming home.
Well, that has been the request actually. No? It's a clamor coming from vaccinated individuals, especially coming from other countries. Dahil nagpatupad po tayo ng green lanes ng mga ating mga Pilipino pa lang na nabakunahan dito sa ating bansa ang isinama natin because these are the only vaccination status na ma-verify natin for now. But nagkaroon na po ng pag-uusap sa IATF, the ICP and the BOQ has committed that there is this kind of mechanism that we are going to enforce so that we can verify also itong vaccination status ng mga Pilipino rin na manggagaling po sa ibang bansa. So mula po nung ngayon, araw na ito na ipatupad na meron ho tayong list of countries na pagkakaroon lang muna ng pagpayag para pagpasok nila dito. They will also have that kind of treatment. 7 araw lang ang quarantine, 5th day testing, basta ma-verify po yung kanilang vaccination status. And they are included into this list of countries na naisaad po natin.
So mga Filipinos pa rin lang, hindi pa pwedeng mga foreigners, no? Even
Tama
if they're
po, ma'am.
vaccinated. Okay, yeah. What about, ma'am, kailan po magdadagsa ng mga bakuna talaga? Kasi iba-iba nga yung mga reports na natatanggap. Hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin nagsasabi, like Senator Gordon, kasi sabi niya na hanggang ngayon wala pa mga bakuna, kaya kahit na on the ready sila, wala namang supply. Plus, hindi sila pinayagan nga na mag-import ng or mag-order ng Moderna or ng vaccines. Kailan nga po ba po pwedeng yung private sector yung dating ng mga bakuna in large quantities? When will that happen?
Yes, ma'am. So according to Secretary Galvez, yung bulk po ng mga in-order natin na bakuna darating ng 3rd and 4th quarter of this year. So ito po kasing mga negotiations or agreements that the private sector had, ito po ay dumadaan pa rin sa national government. So even if Philippine Red Cross has been allowed to procure, it still has to go through the mechanism of the national government. So yung mga in-order po, ang Moderna, dumating lang po ay 249,000, hindi pa ho nakasama yung mga ibang nag-order din ng Moderna. But according to Secretary Galvez, through the vaccine cluster, dadating po yung mas madami natin mga stocks like sa Pfizer, yung mga na-order natin, ito pong sa Moderna, also Sinovac again, and then Sputnik V on the third quarter of this year. And that is, ito na, third quarter na po.
Yeah, we're already here. Yeah. So mga August pa yan eh. We're going to see critical mass numbers, sabihin na lang natin.
Yes, ma'am. No? So actually, dun sa milestones or dun sa parang nilagay na mapa, no? Kung paano, kung gaano kadami ang darating, dun po sa mapa na yan, sinasabi no, na by July, we will be receiving almost 12 million doses. By August, we will be receiving more than 12 million. And pag tinignan nyo natin yung kabuuan, we will be receiving about 20 to 30 million towards the end of fourth quarter pag pinagbubuo na natin. So hopefully po lahat po ng agreements ay mangyari para naman mas marami po tayong mapakula.
Yusek, pahabol lang, meron na bang decision or are you close to a decision on the mixing and matching of brands, vaccine brands?
Yes, ma'am. No? So yesterday, we had a meeting with all of our experts regarding this matter because lumabas na naman yung issue na yan. And accordingly, sa kanila kasi, internationally or globally, wala pa hong sufficient evidence talaga ng pagmi-mix and match of this vaccine. So ang kanila pong hinihiling lang, antayin nating matapos yung mga trials. At meron na daw pong lalabas na trial this third quarter, antayin lang, tsaka po tayo magkaroon uli ng rekomendasyon. But for now, they really do not recommend it yet. We still need sufficient evidence for us to be able na mairekomenda po na gamitin ito ng ating populasyon.
Okay, DOH Spokesperson, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Yusek.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Salamat po. That's all for this special edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to everyone, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Mami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Medlingao, and we are One News.